Hi Stampers, this is Nancy Gleason with my stamping space, and thanks for coming into my stamping space to make this card with me today. I love everything about this card. I love the way that the yellow and the black just contrast with each other, and I love this little bit of watercolor with the pop of pink in it and how that just pops against the yellow, and I'm absolutely in love with these new Dragonfly framelits from the Dragonfly Dream Suite. So let's get started making this project. First, I'm going to take a piece of watercolor paper, and I have my new watercolor pencils that I'm absolutely loving from Stampin' Up, and I love how the pencils just coordinate with the actual Stampin' Up colors. If you remember the watercolor pencils of years ago, they did not. So these are our actual colors, so the coordination is just spot on. And today we're going to be using Daffodil Delight, Pumpkin Pie, Melon Mambo, and Rich Razzleberry. And we are going to start by taking a little piece of watercolor paper. This happens to be 1 3/4 by 3.5, and I'm just going to color and get some color into this paper, and I'm working on kind of a diagonal type of alignment to the paper. I didn't really want to go just straight across. I think if things are diagonal, they tend to look a little more random, and that was the look that I was going for. So far I've used the Daffodil Delight, the Pumpkin Pie, I'm using the Melon Mambo now, and then I'm going to finish off in the corner with Rich Razzleberry. And just a little bit of the colored pencil just scattered onto that paper, and this is where the real magic comes in with the aqua painter. So I'm going to take my aqua painter, and I know that it's nice and wet, and if it's not, I can squeeze a little more water out and get it wet, and then I'm just going to start to almost paint. And you can see that it's getting wet, that the color is moving and blending. And what's so nice with this is I can move the color around as much or as little as I want to, and I can just keep playing with it and get the desired effect. But I can get my color moved right to the very edges, even with when my pencils did not go right to the very edge. And that's it. Just nice and simple, and I have the effect that I want, and now I'm going to set that aside to dry. Next up, I'm going to take a piece of Daffodil Delight cardstock, and I have this trimmed just slightly smaller than my card base. And what I'm going to do on this, I'm going to grab my stamping pad. I am going to stamp with some Daffodil Delight ink and the spotted stamp set from the Dragonfly Dream stamp, just to give a little bit of texture, and you can see that in the finished product right here. So I'm actually going to just eyeball where I want my watercolor panel to be. I'm going to just stamp right in that area, and it will require 2 stamps, and that's all I'm going to do there. Next up, I'm going to do my sentiment in black archival ink. And for the sentiment, I am using the All Things Thanks, and I'm using the bigger stamp set. I wanted a nice big bold sentiment, and I'm going to ink up my stamp really good, and I always like to turn it over and make sure I've got good ink coverage before I actually stamp. I'm going to line this up onto the right side of my card base, and I'm going to just hold that there for a moment. I think when you have a nice dark color, you want to not only give it some pressure, but you want to give it a minute or so for the ink to really saturate into the paper and get a nice darker, more solid coverage. Now I'm not moving my stamp, I'm just pressing it and holding it. So I'm pretty pleased with the way that that came out. Now I've already taken the liberty of cutting out my dragonflies from my framelit dies just for the interest of time. But I'm going to now glue my panel onto my card base. And if you've ever stamped with me or taken a class, you know that I always say dry fit first, so that I know how much of a border I need on my card. Now I did kind of just eyeball that before we got started, so I knew exactly how much of a border I was going to leave. Now I'm going to come back to my watercolor panel, and that seems pretty dry. I could probably let it dry a little bit longer, but for the interest of this video, I'm just going to glue it on right now. And again, I've already eyeballed this. I know that I have a very small margin of black, so I know how much margin or border to leave around my layers. And I like to use the green glue, the Tombow multi-liquid glue, because that gives a little bit of wiggle room, so I can really move my panel around if I need to a little bit, wiggle it around to get it straight on my layers. So now that this is done, I'm just going to glue this on. Looks like I'm getting to the end of my bottle. And then the last thing that I am going to do is take my silicone mat and my dragonflies. Now with the dragonflies, I really don't want to get too much glue. I want to be nice and easy with my glue tip. I want to put glue in some of the thicker areas, so I don't have too much room to work with, but I want to make sure that I'm getting as fine a bead of glue out that I can. Just like that. And I like to leave my glue when I have something very detailed like this. I like to let it just set up for a minute before I actually glue it on to my paper, because I find that my glue won't run and smear as much that way. But I do see something, and if I do see a puddle of glue, I might want to take my glue tip and just kind of spread that around again, so I don't have a whole lot of glue, and then I can come back and just glue my dragonflies back on, and that's it. It was a simple card to make using that nice watercolor technique. The black is just striking against the colors. I'm loving the watercolor pencils. They're just so much fun to play with, and I like the big bold sentiment. I like the contrast of the colors. So a nice, fun, easy card to make, easily duplicatable. Just lots of fun. So I hope that you enjoyed this video and that you will come back into my stamping space and stamp with me again. And if you make this card, please send me a picture and let me know. I'd love to see what you make after watching this video. And if you need to buy either the Dragonfly Dream stamp set, which is a photopolymer stamp set, or the All Things Thanks stamp set, which is a red rubber stamp set, you can buy them on my blog through my online store. And the framelits for the Dragonfly Dreams and the stamp set are a bundle, so you can bundle and save. So thanks for stopping by and stamping with me. I'll see you soon.